Alright, and we are now live. We got this fairly large for my layout freight train being hauled by this Holds Varney locomotive, which actually is a Atherton blue box driving it, but in any case, it's doing it. So yeah, I'm gonna set the chat to live chat, so I hopefully don't miss any of your messages out there. Got a couple of people joining in. We've got Pennsylvania Rail Fan, Western BC Rail Fan, Rio Does Things 19, Dabby Turtle 18, Bnsf Railroad, Omaha, Train Boy 1016, UP Bnsf Rail Fan Kingston, Jane London, It's Fluffy, Loft Off, Pedimont Rail Fan, Catboy 2011, GBG's Trains, Mason Monster, Traincraft 101, Norfolk Railway Fan, Gamerman 13, Ty 3506, Top Gun Goose D, NJ Railfan Productions, Cliff and Sabrina Harwarth, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that right, I do apologize. CSX Enthusiast 870. And then we got some repeats in there. If I missed your name, I do apologize. I see we got more people joining in. But yeah, anyway, run the big boy. I also love your videos. Thank you. I guess we could probably try to run the big boy with this big train. I don't know. Is a River Rossi big boy strong enough to haul this? I guess we can find out. I don't know if I was supposed to... Was the big boy running bad last live stream? There's something about the big boy. It might need servicing, but hey, well, we'll try it. Run the big boy, please. I mean, I pretty much just run the big boy for the entire live stream. It seems to be what everybody wants. We'll let this do 2 more laps, and then we'll get the big boy going. Uh-oh. Huh, I wonder what caused that to derail. That's weird. Or we'll get it going a little faster, though, for fun. Run the cheapest loco. That new one, we could probably try to haul. Well, I don't know. It was struggling to haul those 17 cars. I don't think it's going to haul this. It's a pretty large train. I know there's some person out there with one of those mega layouts that's probably running like 50 car consist, and they're like, oh, you call this a big train. Yeah, I know in the grand scheme of things, it's not a massive train, but I don't know. It's a lot better than the 4-car consist I'm usually hauling around. So there's 1 lap. Is there a specific place you get parts? For River Rossi locomotives, it's River Restore. As for everything else, not really. I quite often try to avoid buying projects that involve having to get parts, because trying to hunt down parts, not even just with model trains, but with anything in general, is a pain in the neck. It's always expensive. It's always difficult. You need to find the exact part for the exact product for the specific year it was made. Or year range in some case, and yeah, I don't know. It's always a wild goose chase. Any seller, if they're selling, like, it doesn't matter, any kind of project, and they say something like, oh, you just need to buy this one part and you'll have this thing going, you can find this part real cheap. Never listen to them. It's never like that. Centennial doubleheader. Oh, I don't want to doublehead the Centennials. They're too... if they were the same drive, I would do it, but not with these two. Anyway, let's get this train back over here. That way we can hook up the big boy. I just ripped up all the tracks in my layout. I'm now relaying track because the track was never touched. Was played bad. Huh. You'll have to triple head the big boy once you get the other 2 running. Well, one of them has never even been taken out of the box, so I'll have to do an unboxing at some point on that. And then, yeah, the other one still needs to get fixed, but I want to work on that eventually. It's just that's a bigger commitment to time because I don't know what I'm getting into. I've never worked on an engine that large before. It's going to be fun, I think, working on it, but yeah, I don't know. Alright, so here is the big boy. This is the right one. Probably. Hiawatha, please. Perhaps. Just around the corner. SMT, how much money do you have? What the? Yeah, I'm not answering that one question. Okay, so what do you all think? Is the Rarest Big Boy going to be powerful enough to pull this? I think it's over 20 car consist. I don't know. I haven't counted it. Let's find out. Oh, she's not liking it. I mean, the train is technically moving. It's just really struggling. Let's try giving it this thing a little more power here. The amps aren't too high, so at least we're not straining the motor too much. If the amps were higher, I would probably stop this right here. Okay. Well, apparently it can. And there it goes. This might not work out. That Bachmann coupler is not so great. Gonna have to find something better. Yeah, trying to accelerate with this thing. Whoa. This is not a torque monster. What's your favorite short line railroad? The Quebec and Gatineau Railway, which runs between my town of Gatineau and Quebec City. It's also a division of Genesee in Wyoming, but I'm pretty sure it still counts. Hey Harrison, do you have a VIA F unit? If you can run it with some passenger coaches. Yeah, sure. I don't think I'll run it with passenger coaches though, because I don't really feel like taking this whole train off. But I'll have it pull this whole bit of nonsense. I know having a passenger engine haul a freighter like this is terribly unprototypical, but I don't know. That's the big thing. Trying to assemble entire trains on these live streams is a very timely thing, and if not everybody wants to see that train, it's not going to be fun for everyone. Well, I think that's good for the big boy. Why don't we get that VIA engine on? What number is your GS4? 44, 49, of course. What's your favorite train? In real life, it's what was the Hull Chelsea Wakefield train, which is that right there. In model, it's my grandmother's 1951 Rarest Hiawatha. This thing is very special to me for a whole bunch of different reasons. Anyway, on to getting a VIA engine. So there's the unit. I think I did something to this engine. I had to borrow parts from it or something one time for a quick project, so I'm a bit skeptical this thing is actually going to start. Well, I guess I got it running again because it's moving, so what do you reckon that? Anyway, now we just need to get one of those conversion cars and we'll see if it's strong enough to haul this. SMT, run a local or a switching job. The freight yard is in pieces. I can't do that. Hey SMT, can you run the CSX locomotive you got off of Amazon? Yes, yeah, that was already requested actually, so yeah, we'll try to run it with this big train here. We'll see how it does. We might have to cut out a few cars. Did the Hershey factory finish? No, it's not done yet. Still working on it. I was supposed to get that done by April too, by the way, so I failed to get that done. A lot happened this year in my personal life, so I wouldn't say it's entirely my fault, but it kind of is because I was the one who's in charge of the project, and it's not finished, so yeah, anyway. Come on, Athern. Okay, we'll see if that current draw goes down, but if it doesn't, that's a bit concerning. That's that's an entire amp. Hey, SMT, why are Lionel trains so expensive and can you do more Lionel videos? Why are Lionel trains more expensive? I think they have a captive market. I think they, don't have a crazy amount of competition, and they got a lot of devoted fans. So I think now it's just a game of, hey, let's hike our prices and make more money. That's a big problem in the hobby right now. 10 years ago, things were a lot cheaper. And to be fair, things have advanced. If you look at detail on newer models, it's quite a bit better than the older ones. And you've also got DCC sound and all this other stuff. So, there has been improvements, but the prices have just skyrocketed. It's kind of unbelievable. Now, next up, that Bnsf engine, which was featured in a recent video. Just need to figure out where I actually put that engine. Here it is. I gotta say, I'm really growing to like this engine. When I first got it, it seemed decent, but as time goes on, I don't know. Just for what I paid for it, this is one of the few budget engines which you can buy today, which I actually think is a good price. It seems to be decent quality for it. I mean, this is cheaper than most of the Bach. I haven't found a cheaper Bachmann one. I've looked. So we'll have to see how this holds up quality-wise, though. Let's go hook this up to the rest of those cars, and we'll see if it can pull the whole thing. How much was that budget engine? I can't remember. I put it in the title of the video. It was just over 50 American dollars or something like that. Might have been a little bit high. It was 65 American. That's how much it was. Yeah, there's a little too much for it. Okay, so I guess what I'll do is I'll disconnect these cars here. We'll see if it can haul this right here, and then we'll get it going. All right, yeah, I can handle that, no problem. Hey SMT, after the video where you reviewed the CSX GP15 Walters train line, I got one for myself. In the UP colors, it runs smooth. I'd like to say thank you for letting me know. And thanks for letting me see what I was getting. Yeah, no problem. I was curious about it too. And if this engine proves to be good, I've got a lot of beginners who are always reaching out and saying, SMT, I'm getting into the hobby. What should I buy? And, if somebody wants to get a specific engine, that's great. But if you're just looking for something in general, it doesn't cost a lot of money and doesn't do too bad. So far, this thing's checked out all the boxes. So, yeah, I'm kind of tempted to order up another one, but it would just be a different paint scheme. So, I don't want to make the same video twice, basically, because I'd want to show everybody the drive system all over again. But at the same time, it is kind of tempting to buy, they've got a Bnsf model of this and in Union Pacific. They got a Canadian Pacific, which looks kind of nice, but I already have quite a bit of Canadian Pacific, so I think I'd probably either go for the Union Pacific or Union Pacific, the Norfolk Southern, or the Bnsf, one of those three, just to diversify the collection a bit. Buy the Conrail. That would be a nice choice, too. What's the best HO train company? Or trading company? I don't know what the best trading company is for best HO scale company. I don't have a particular favorite. I do like Rapido. Cato is pretty good. I like Walters. Atlas and Athearn, I think, are both fine. Although I haven't tried out the modern Athearn stuff. Old Athearn stuff is fantastic. The old blue boxes, can't recommend those enough, because you can buy them really, really cheap, and they just kind of seem to run forever. They're really low maintenance. And as you saw earlier in the live stream too, you can haul a lot of cars with the old Athearns. Hiawatha, please, it's my favorite. All right, we'll get that one out. We'll run that one next. Hello SMT, can you recommend what to get for my in-scale Cato basic set? I couldn't really say I think Kato stuff is good, so I think whatever you choose to get is probably going to be fine. I don't know the N scale stuff very well, and when it comes down to different types of locomotives, that's really just a matter of preference. I'll recommend certain manufacturers, but usually specific engines I don't have too much of an opinion on. Hey SMG, can you run the American Freedom Loco? I think it's a really cool train. Yeah, we can do that. We'll run the Hiawatha first, though, because that's got a lot of requests on it. Do you have an E2 class locomotive? Well, if you're talking about an E2 class like Thomas the Tank, no, I don't. If you're talking about the Swedish E2, yeah, it's this beauty right here. Hello from Denmark. Welcome. Are 2x8 layouts good for running on? That would be really tricky to build. A 4x8 is the most common size of HO scale layout, and the reason for that is because you can have wider curves. Like with a 2 foot wide layout, if you're just building like a freight yard or something because you want to do switching, yeah, that's going to be fine. But if you're trying to build a loop on a 2x8, I don't even think they make curves that are tight enough to work on that. So if you're trying to build a layout, I'd avoid that. Try to build it wider. The wider you can build your layout, it's usually a good thing because you want to make your curves as wide as possible. The wider you make your curves, first of all, you can run bigger engines. Second of all, you're going to have less derailments. Yeah, I'm trying to think of a good third reason. I went through this in my head one day. But yeah, making the curves wider is just generally a good idea. I mean, obviously, not everybody has a crazy amount of space, so if that's the case, you just got to work with what you got. But if you have the option to build a layout that's wide enough to have really good curves, do it. What DCC controller do you recommend for a smaller layout? I don't really have an opinion on DCC controllers just because I haven't worked with a ton of them. This is the controller that I use. It's a Digitrax DCS51. From my perspective, it's a fine controller, but again, I just have not worked with enough of them to say, like if I compared this to a bunch of different controllers, I could say, yes, this is a great controller, but all I know is it gets the job done. There's probably a better one out there. Who knows? I don't. Do you have a 3616 Bnsf engine? I have one, but the cab is broken. Well, if it's the number of that Bachmann engine that they... No, I don't have that engine, because I think the one included in a million Bachmann train sets was the 3001, or 3001. Anyway, let's get the Hiawatha going here. And you run the big boy. We already ran the big boy, so I think we'll run some other stuff. I also promised to run the Freedom Train. SMT, I have a Norfolk Southern Locomotive, a high hood GP38-2 that I can send to you. It's a Bachmann and it's missing some handrails. I don't want it anymore. I might send it to you. All right. Unfortunately, I have to go. I'll be back in a little bit. Well, thanks for stopping by. Can you run the MSTS police locomotive later? Yeah, we can do that. SMT, what's your favorite long line company for your favorite heritage unit? I couldn't say. Do you have a Flying Scotsman? I've got a really old AC one. Unfortunately, I can't run it because it's broken and I don't have 3-rail track, but I do technically have one. Okay, then. What's your fave train you got from the mail? Favorite train I got from the mail? Oh, boy. Sort of difficult to pick and choose because they're all very different, so it's not like they're super easy to compare. I know that's kind of a lame answer, but yeah, I can't tell you off the top of my head. Can you run the Royal Hudson? Yes, yeah, it's going to be a few requests down the line, though. Can you give any sorts of recommendations for starters or people who are just getting ready to start a layout? For starter sets, if you want to buy one, I'd probably just buy the cheapest Bachmann starter set you can get your hands on. I'm not a huge fan of Bachmann products. I don't find that they're super high quality, but they do make the cheapest starter sets on the market. So just buy a cheap one. Don't buy one of those elaborate ones unless it's something that you really want, because I don't find the value for your money is actually all that great with those. If you have a little bit more means for a starter set, maybe going with like a Walters one might be a good idea, but those cost a lot more, so be forewarned. But yeah, I'd probably buy the cheapest Bachmann set, and then maybe buy something like, if you want to buy used, buy an old Athearn Blue Box. If you want to buy new, maybe something like that new Walters engine I just got in a recent video, the $65 one. That seemed like a decent engine. For building a layout, my advice would be, figure out what you want. And I know that seems obvious, to build a layout, with things you want. But, sometimes without inspiration, you can think you only want a couple things, and then you start building it, and then once you've built it, you realize, oh, it'd be great if I had this, that, and the other thing. So look at other people's layouts. If there's something you like, write it down, make a list. Go look at pictures of real railroads. Go through model railroading magazines. It really doesn't matter. Just anywhere you can get inspiration, pull things from it and use them. And then once you have a great big list, you can kind of go from there and determine what industries you want to have and how you want to set up your track. And of course, other than your imagination, there are some limits. Budget's going to be one and space is going to be another. So that's where you need to kind of edit things off your list and be like, okay, you know what? I want to get this factory, but it's going to cost $200, so I'll do that up the road. Or, I wish I could fit this big mill right here, but I only have this much space, so instead I'm going to build a small town there, So you kind of have to figure out what you can do off that list. But that's how I'd go about building it. And another thing I would also suggest for people who are setting up their first layout is that, there's a lot of people who have, in some cases been in the hobby for a long time, and they're very much about building a very prototypical layout. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you want to build a really accurate layout, all the power to you. All I'm saying is that if that's not your goal, I wouldn't worry about building something in a certain era or a certain place, This layout is super unrealistic. I mean, look, you got a cherry blossom tree with apple trees, so the seasons are mixed up. You've got, a mix of European and North American locomotives. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's steam and diesel. There's a whole bunch of stuff that's wrong with it, but the whole point of the hobby is enjoying it, and I really enjoy this layout, so it does its job perfectly. So yeah, that's my advice. Anyway, we'll let this go around for a couple more laps, and then I think we'll switch out to put on the American Freedom Train. What's your dream car? Either a 1969 or 1971 Dodge Charger. What's your favorite steam locomotive? Mine is a GRR 28040. Baldwin 3-chime. Also, can you get Nerf Cat? I'll see. I think he's outside at the moment. Favorite steam locomotive? Swedish E2 class. That thing right there, basically. Can you run the Daylight steam engine or some Lionel trains? It's not the Daylight, but I was gonna run the Freedom Train, which is still the 4449. What's your strongest locomotive? I have an old Varney locomotive, which is completely built out of lead, so it weighs a ton, and it's got a skew-wound 7-pole motor in it, so it's got a lot of torque. I suspect that thing could haul 50 cars. If not that, one of my Rapido engines. Rapido is pretty good at building engines with remarkable pulling capacity. If you guys need any help making a layout, I can help. I'm currently building mine. That's another thing too, if you, for getting inspiration, you can go look for yourself, but you can also ask people who have built layouts themselves if they have any tips. I've already shared mine, but There are lots of people out there that can have some good ideas. I have a 1969 Dodge Daytona. Oh, lucky. Do you still have Via Rail 919? Yes, of course. In fact, it's right there. That was my dream engine for years. I don't even know if I've ever told this story on here, but those Via FP4 or P42s, sorry, especially back in the day, were really hard to come by, and I was desperate to get one. And I think it was for my 10th birthday, my parents managed to snag one, and we had been on the search for one for so long, I didn't think I was going to get one. And I opened up a box, and that thing was inside, and I flipped out. I just couldn't believe that. That was pretty wild. How many Lionel trains do you have? I don't know. If you include the AHO ones, probably about 10. Maybe a little less. What's your weakest engine? Somebody sent this tiny switcher locomotive in. It's not band driven, but the drive shaft uses, well, it is kind of band driven. Drive shaft uses a small band. The motor in that thing's in horrible shape. It draws like an amp and hardly puts out any power. It can hardly move the engine. So probably that. Anyway, where is my Freedom Train at? I'm really hoping I can fetch a cab for this thing. Does your Hiawatha have its passenger cars? I have a passenger car for it, made out of brass. I bought it at a train show for 40 bucks, which I thought didn't seem like too bad a deal. All right, we got this thing going. Hopefully it will stay on the track. I don't think this thing will go in the right direction. I'm not thinking about the Freedom Train. I'm talking about the daylight steam engine. If you have it, can you run it? Yeah, I do have a daylight, but unfortunately it doesn't run. I think I'm on the market to possibly buy a new one, just because I feel like fixing that thing is going to be a lot of trouble. SMT, how good are you at kit bashing / scratch building? Not terribly skilled. I can build stuff. I mean, none of this came into a kit, so this entire factory is basically scratch built, but I'm no expert on it. I'm learning though. Couldn't you pull parts from the broken daylight, or is the plan to fix the daylight someday? I don't want to destroy the current daylight, because despite it being broken, it's a very sentimental engine. It was given to me by my grandparents, so I'm not gonna get rid of it. It's just gonna be an ornament, basically. All right, I'll get this thing going here. It's probably still programmed to 3. I'm hoping later this month I can go to a train show again. I've missed them so much. I've missed them too. I don't know when they're going to be back in Canada, but if the U.S. border reopens, I'd be happy to go to a show in like New York or something like that. I miss train shows, and I miss America. The two things in my life that have been stopped due to previous events. Where can I get like 30 CN hopper cars and 2 CN GP40 2W locomotives? Not entirely sure. What train's motor works the best? Probably one of the Rapido models. Those things have really high-end motors in them. I don't necessarily know how to identify a train just off the looks, so how exactly are people able to do that? I don't know. I can't really do it. I think some people are just so passionate that they can, they identify how many heat vents are on the top of it, and they can see that, oh, one locomotive has a square window while the other has a round window, and they just notice all these little different variations, and they can identify an E8 from an E9 and a GP7 from a GP9, you know, that kind of stuff. Like, they can spot the differences. I'm really bad for that, unfortunately, but I guess if it's something you really care about, you just figure it out. How's your N-scale layout coming along? Been a while since I've seen it. Not really anything has changed on it. It really, I think, needs some work. Okay, this thing seems to have derailed. So, yeah. What is your rarest train? Probably the Riverossi Hiawatha. You can find these things online, but they rarely sell cheap, and yeah, they're not super common. You can find them, but they're not just something you can kind of scroll into any hobby shop with and find one. SMT, at least COVID didn't stop. Yeah, exactly. No, yeah, the rail fanners made off quite nice throughout this whole thing. Hasn't really pumped the brakes on that. What type of track do you use on your layout? The majority of it's Atlas snap track. I got a couple Pico switches on the layout as well, but I don't know. Not this switch in particular, I have not been terribly impressed with, honestly. I mean, that cost me like $30 and it's having electrical issues. I don't know, for that kind of money, I kind of expect better. Can you run a junk engine full speed? Oh, yeah, I guess so. I don't know. I know which one to run. Where the heck is it? Here it is. This is that engine that I... Okay, looks like we're not going to be running this engine. I gave it a shake because the body had fallen into the engine, and then I somehow actually popped the rear truck off the engine. And I think I lost one of the wheel sets. Oh, no, here it is. Can it be saved? This might be the junkiest running engine I have in my collection. But it's got an okay motor in it. I don't know. Why is the stream paused? I don't think it is. What is your go-to track? Also, Vanderbilt engine tenders or slope tenders are my final questions. I don't know the difference, to tell you the truth. Go-to track, probably Atlas. No, not everybody likes them, but I haven't had too many problems with their products. Switches have been questionable at times, but that's kind of been about it. Okay, so I think we finally got this thing working. Before we go putting the shell on, we'll actually give it some power. Oh. Okay. I think it just needs the weight of the shell on it. See, this is what's driving me crazy. The shell just keeps kind of falling over the back of the engine. Come on. Okay, this thing's starting to test my patience. I think I've had enough of it for this evening. Sorry for whoever wanted me to run a junky engine, but this thing is not behaving. Anyway, have you got the letter yet? I don't know which letter that is. I've got a few letters in the mail lately. I don't know what you think. I'll ask all of you this question if I should, because obviously it's really nice when people send letters. I really like reading the letters. The only thing about reading the letters in the videos is they tend to be kind of timely, and I'm not a very good reader. I think a good portion of that probably is due to being dyslexic, but I find whenever I read the letters, it always is sort of awkward because I'm sort of messing up the sequencing of all the sentences. So, I don't know. Do you guys enjoy when I read the letters in the videos, or do you want me to stop? Because I obviously, if people send letters, I'm going to read them personally. My question is if all of you just enjoy it, you know? Because to me, they just seem, I don't know. Maybe if I could speak a little better, it would be okay, but that's just my opinion. Anyway, I'm pretty sure somebody wanted me to run a Hudson, so we'll get that going. Can you run some Lionel trains later? Yeah. I love when you read letters. Fun to hear different stories. All right, so that's 4 letters. I don't find them necessary. Okay, so now we got 1 vote against the letters. So we're basically back to square one. Do you have any Lego trains? Yeah, I got the Horizon set. No letters. Okay, another vote against the letters. I like the letters. Okay, now we got 2 votes for the letters. Okay, a lot of votes are coming in for the letters now. Letters are nice. Well, people are really pulling through for the letters now. Northern Country Railroad. Who makes your Hudson? I think it was all scratch built. The parts were made by some company, but I think it was all kit bashed. Well, I guess everybody's for the letters. Interesting. All right. Will you ever buy a Scale Trains locomotive? I think so. I'm curious about their products. We'll see. A lot of people in the community seem to like them, so they must be doing something right. But I've never actually worked with one of their pieces myself. Okay. This engine's ridiculously smooth. What's your most expensive locomotive? Well, this little number right here cost me over 600 Canadian dollars. How old is your great-grandfather? It's not my great-grandfather's engine. It's my grandmother's. It was built in 1951. Maybe 53. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's 51. So if it was 51 and we're in 2021... would that make it 70 this year? I don't know. My math might be wrong. Say your best joke. I don't think it's savory for this kind of stream. How expensive is it? I don't know how much this one is worth. It's missing parts and it's not in great shape in terms of the paintwork. 70 years old. Okay, my math was right. Wow. Yeah. These things, you see these things going for $3,000 on eBay. They're not worth that much. Probably worth more like 800, but I kind of could care less about that just because it's worth one hell of a lot more in sentimental value, I'll say that. But that's the way it goes. Got some engines which are, you know, monetary-wise, people probably wouldn't want to pay $5 for them. But it wouldn't really matter what people offered. I wouldn't sell them. You got this old lifelike engine. That was one of my first ones. I ran the hell out of that thing. It's fallen apart, but it's very important to me. Did you get an HO scale polar and press? I'm certainly thinking of it, yeah. Can you run your Mahano 6060? Yeah, let's get that thing out. Money can't buy happiness. Yeah, that's what a lot of people say. I mean, yes, you can't literally buy happiness. That's very true, although a lot of people seem to be very happy going out and buying all sorts of things, so it's not necessarily sustainable, but I'm not 100% on board with that quote. People's actions, to me, do not match them. Money can buy Mr. buy happiness, but money can't buy model trains. Yeah, something like that. I think if you want to go deeper, you could say, yes, materialism is not a perfect way to find happiness. That's a whole deeper thing, but like I said, I don't totally buy it. How old is your oldest GG1? I don't know. It's probably from about the mid-70s. I saw a sign at a hobby shop that said, money can't buy happiness, but it can buy model trains. Oh, that's a good one. I don't know. I can sure tell you got a lot of really good memories with many of these trains. It's not even just the trains themselves, though, but, you know, some of the experiences, like just getting to go to places and see all this stuff. And I mean, through this hobby, you know, I joined a model train club and I have friends because of it. So it's not even just the trains, but it can lead to all sorts of other more meaningful things too. Was the Walter CSX worth it? I would say so. I think that was a very good value. Hey, SMT Mainline starting up model railroading. What is your best tip for wiring track to DCC? About how many feet? Also, what's the best cleaning method? Wiring track to DCC. I don't really have a lot of advice because I don't know, my whole wiring setup's a little shaky. Just make sure everything's solid. Check all the connections and stuff like that. That's the only bit of advice. So hopefully your stuff works. If you're building a big layout, you probably want to put jumper wires too to make sure the electrical connection's consistent, but that's about it. How do you join train clubs? I don't know. Most model railroading clubs have a whole membership thing where you can sign up. I think some of them just let you join right away. Others, yeah, have to go through a whole big process like mine. So I'm not even officially, I don't even know if I count as a member or not, but I'm to some degree part of my model railroading club. But it's kind of regardless because met people who I enjoy the hobby with, so it's what kind of matters. Met a lot of interesting people too. I couldn't believe this. I'm not going to name any names, for privacy reasons, but this had to have been one of the craziest things that happened through the train club, which is that through part of my orientation with the club, I was working with this older gentleman. and he was explaining a lot of the stuff, and he knew a lot about, you know, like train operations, and he was explaining stuff that would happen in real life. I'm like, okay, well, this guy's got to know his stuff. He had to have worked on a real railroad. So I asked him what his kind of story was, and he went through and he told me about how when he was younger, he grew up in England, and he actually worked on real steam locomotives, and then he moved to Canada in the 60s, and then he eventually became part of Transport Canada through the 1980s. And this was crazy because my grandfather was also working for Transport Canada in the 80s. So I asked him if he knew him, and he said, "You're kidding. He was my boss for 10 years. What a small world. But all through the power of model railroading. That never would have happened had I not been in model trains and been part of Model Railroading Club. Hey, SMT, can you run a modern CN or Canadian Pacific locomotive? Yeah. I asked the Larkspur train store in Merrickville about you. Yeah, the guy there has mentioned that, and he apparently keeps getting all sorts of calls about the videos I've done there. He said, I hope this is all good business. Anyway, a modern Canadian Pacific. I have to go dig up one of those -9ers or something. I don't know. I wonder if this has a coupler on it. Yes. SMT Mainline is sponsored by Larkspur Line Train Store. Yeah, I wish. I think the shopkeep did give me a discount one time, which was very nice. I don't know. I like, it's not even just Larkspur, though. It's nice doing these videos. If they help these local businesses out, it is good. And, I mean, I know some people are probably going to say that's hypocritical, you know, helping out these small businesses when at the same time you're going and doing these videos about buying stuff off of Amazon and eBay. But the thing that I like to keep in mind is that, you know, you can promote both, first of all, but second of all, it's also like, you know, not everybody has a train store in their area and stuff. So when I make the videos about buying stuff off of Amazon, it's not so much that I'm trying to draw people away from shopping at brick and mortar train stores. It's just that not everybody has a brick and mortar train store around them. So it's just nice when you can recommend a product that anybody can buy. How many CSX locomotives do you have in your collection? It's not a crazy high number, 2 or 3 maybe. Has anyone ever tried to steal your trains? That's never happened to me personally, but I know at train shows, the people there usually have stories of stuff getting stolen. And you'll notice, too, I find on a lot of layouts at train shows, the rolling stock is usually not super high-end, and I think it's for that reason. Like, if you're leaving your cars unattended there, it's very easy for somebody just to show up and, you know, swipe them, so... Yeah, I think there's one gentleman who said he usually has a couple $100 worth of his stuff stolen every year. Which, I guess, you know, if you're willing to go to these shows, it's your choice to put your stuff at risk, but that would kind of drive me crazy if, you know, I'm coughing up $200 a year because people think it's okay to go and steal other people's stuff. That's the worst part of it, too. It's like, you know, you're not ripping off some, you know, not that it's ever moral to steal, but it's like you're not ripping off some big organization. You're ripping off, you know, another model railroader. It's so greasy. Hey, SMT, can you run that little 3-car red thing and trolley beside your other trolleys? What, this? Got a steam locomotive for $25. Nice. Run a Conrail. Sorry for bugging you, but I want a Conrail on the track zooming. I don't know, should we do a pulling capacity and see if the $3 engine can pull this big train? Hey, SMT, whatever happened to that passenger car train you purchased recently? Nothing. It's just sat for now. A lot of the projects I buy, though, you know, I think, like, I'll buy something and then somebody will be like, whatever happened to that? And it's not that I never intend to get it done. It's just projects just tend to take a really long time. When it's between working on that or putting more time into the Hershey factory, usually leans into that. That thing soaks up so much time. It's a labor of love, but I really kind of can't wait to get it done, honestly, just because once I do, it's going to free up a lot of time I could be pouring into all sorts of different projects. Because most projects I can get done in a day. That one's been going on for years now. All right, $3 Conrail engine. Where's that at? We could also try that, but I'm pretty confident it's not going to work. Oh, here it is. No, I meant the other red trolley on the shelf above the Penn Central train cars. Penn Central train. I'm sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, probably that, the light rail vehicle. Yeah, we can run that. I'm really excited for the plans you have for the layout. Looking forward to see what happens. Yeah, well, I'm trying to get stuff done on it. Stuff is usually just a bit slower during the summer too, though, just because in the winter you're all everyone's, you know, cooped up inside, so you can feel a lot better about being down in the basement for a long time. But during the summertime, when the weather's nice and there's stuff happening, you know, it just kind of tends to draw you away because you got other priorities. But yeah, you can see here too, this is pushed back the station, all part of a big track progress. How's the progress on the Hershey factory? Well, speaking of the devil, it's still a ways off. I would say I've probably got it about 80% complete, so it's not that far away. But there's just a lot of details which I still need to finish, like building, you know, these very particular AC units and stuff like that, and finishing up like just letters and those sorts of things, and actually finishing the back of the factory, which I was working on today. So it's gonna be a bit longer. I know I said I was gonna get it done by April. I failed, but I'm still hoping to get it done within this year. Of course, it will probably be around this time next year when I'm saying it's 95% there. Come on, $3 engine. Oh, made any progress on the Dreyfus? I haven't opened that engine up. I have a feeling that's going to be a tricky one, so I'm gonna wait for a day, or I'm gonna wait for a rainy day to work on that one. It's alive. I think people are talking about Gene Wilder. It's alive. Yeah, I think we're sort of at this engine's limit. It's also four-wheel drive, so this is a pretty big expectation for it. It's doing it though. Oh, I think it's gaining traction. For the amount of money I paid for this engine, I really can't balk though. Let the sparks fly, SMT. Yeah. I think we're gonna need to crank up the power here, folks. Let's put it on G-scale mode. Okay, here we go. Time to go into overdrive. Oh, whoops, that's the wrong direction. Okay, time to go into overdrive. That poor three-pole. Will it pull it around for an entire lap? Oh! We're gonna burn the traction tires right off. Ludicrous speed go. Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's biting. Okay, I think we've flogged that poor engine enough. It did it though. $3 engine. The smell of ozone is kind of strong, but I can even feel a bit of heat out of the shell. But considering how much power we were putting into that poor motor, I gotta say, I've not been disappointed. Once again, the engine's proven itself to be of value. Wheel slip to the max, yeah. Good night, SMT. I have to get ready for school. I also have to go to bed now, but good night. What's the favorite train you have? The Hiawatha. Do you have any Tycho Mantuas? Yeah, I wonder what would be a good Mantua to run. Can you run your O-gauge stuff, please? Yeah, I don't see why not. Let's see, I don't remember how well this thing runs. Giving it power, nothing's happening. It's not doing much running it. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, well now it's getting power, but it's not moving. Oh, I think it's coming back to life though. What is happening with this engine? So you can hear the motor trying to go, but it just won't start. Let's try disconnecting it here, see if we can. This thing is not doing much running. Let's see, we'll back up. Oh. Could just be the commutator sticking. Yeah. I think we're getting it back. Yeah, I think this thing has just been sitting on a shelf for too long. Yeah, let's see if we can pull this now. There we go. It's amazing how when these things have been sitting for a while, all it takes is just a little bit of getting them moving again to help them. Need some running in, that's why I have a rolling road. Yeah, that's one way to do it. There's nothing wrong though with just putting it out on the track and letting it burn around. Xander Cole, welcome. Uh-oh. I'll let that go around for like 2 more loops, and then we'll put some other stuff on. Another derailment. That's strange. It seems to be going pretty smooth now. Can you run your favorite Norfolk Southern? Yeah, sure. Should do a video reviewing your rolling stock collection. I agree, that would be nice. Hey, SMT, kind of serious question. What's going on with Discord? I don't know. The server's not running anymore just because it was causing a lot of problems. Because what would happen is that, like, you know, I don't have much involvement with the operations of that server. So, you know, sometimes there'd be decisions made by the staff or just in general about certain situations, which I maybe would or wouldn't disagree with. And then people would get mad and they would come to me being like, yo, what the heck, this happened to me. You chose who to put on this server to run it. You need to fix this on, you know, a problem I had no knowledge on. So it's like, well, I don't know. So then I would go troubleshooting where I'd be like, okay, so whatever moderator did it and be like, this is what happened. Is that what happened? And then they would have their whole story, and then it would turn into a he said, she said sort of situation. Just a bunch of nonsense, really, but I would always be involved just through it being my server. So eventually it's just kind of like, well, enough of that. I don't really want to go about fixing all these weird problems. So, yeah. Anyway, so somebody wanted a Norfolk Southern engine. I said I was going to run the Police engine, so we'll get that out. And that out, and then we'll probably run the Talent. SMT is 18 volts too much for HO. 18 volts is quite a bit of power, but as long as your engine's in good order, it's okay. I know there are some people that say you don't want to be putting a crazy amount of voltage through them, and yeah, you know, for a modern engine with a sensitive decoder, I probably wouldn't go above 12, but for these old, like, Atherns and things like that, yeah, you can get them up there. The big thing is, you don't want to be putting a lot of power into an engine that's strained. If a motor's turning over at a high RPM, it's usually not a problem because there's plenty of air going through it, cooling it down, and the brushes are cleaning the armature. But it's when you're running a motor really slow and it's being strained, that's usually where you run into problems because you start burning out the commutator. Well, maybe you should make a rule to not ping or bing you if you have an issue with the server or instant kick. Maybe just suspend moderators who use their powers for ill intent. Yeah, eventually I might start a new Discord server, but it's just I never was actually the one who created that server. Somebody created that server, and then they kind of handed over the reins, and then since I wasn't managing it, I sort of just delegated those responsibilities to a bunch of other people because just doing different things. So I never really had much to do with the Discord server, but it is ultimately my server, so I guess, you know, I am kind of responsible for what happens. I guess there's a reason live diesel isn't a thing. I think live diesel would be a really cool idea. I've thought about trying to rig up a model aircraft engine because those run on diesel fuel. To power a model train, but it'd be really tricky, and also you'd have to set up a track outside, and also you want to be spitting out dirty miniature 2-stroke diesel emissions into your basement. I don't know if you could also make some sort of like a miniature centrifugal clutch or something like that. There's got to be something, but it would be good if there was a way to disconnect the engine from the drive just so that the thing wouldn't take off on you every time you got the engine started. Once the blue train next to your controller, please run it. This thing is trying to sort the sound system on that out. It hasn't been going very well. All the Discord nonsense aside, I ponder if any Hershey locomotives for use on this layout. Be nice to get a Hershey locomotive, but those are really expensive. Out of caboose. Alright. You run to Boston, Maine? Yeah, probably. Might have to end this stream in about 20 minutes or so, because I think everyone upstairs is headed off to bed, but we'll keep it rolling for a little longer. Have you heard the song My Trains by Lemon Demon? I can't say I have. So if you watched those Microsoft Train Simulator TV videos back in the day, this should bring back some memories. Can we get a railfan POV? Yeah. So we're on the SMT mainline sub. About to watch the TSPD engine go by, hauling a mid-train DPU. Mixed freight, as you can see. Train Simulator 2004 was my obsession as a kid. Yeah, Trains with a Z is pretty fun. Microsoft Train Simulator was fantastic. Most of the train simulators from the 2000s were pretty rockin'. The modern ones are good too. They're super realistic, but I don't know. I don't find them as exciting. They're more focused on realism. Camera kind of hyper focuses here, eh? What's your opinion on Kato engines? I like them. I think they're well built. Have you ever heard of Boxcar Willie? Is Boxcar Willie, yeah, I think I heard some of that. Of course, Johnny Cash made some terrific railroad songs. I like the Rock Island one. It's pretty good. Yeah, of course, there's, what's that one there? Cannonball, the Wabash Cannonball. Thoughts on the Western Maryland Railway? I don't know much about it, to be honest. Same with Hank Snow, yeah. Stompin' Tom Connors. Freddie Dixon, he's a good artist, more local though, so unless you're from kind of Smith Falls, Ontario sort of area, I don't think too many people are going to recognize that one. Speaking of Boxcar Willie, I have a Boxcar Willie record, and it has the Wabash Cannonball. Excited for the Via Chargers. Yeah, I would say so. I'm gonna miss the P42s though. I mean, those are pretty fantastic engines in my opinions. My opinions. Oh, can't speak English anymore. Anyway, let's put on some different pieces of equipment. Have you heard Train by Elvis? Of course, yeah. And my grandfather also pointed out the Beatles actually did a song about a train called the One After 909, which I thought was pretty funny because This engine right here is 909. Do some Lionel, the red trimmer trolley thing. Yes, I will. Patience. Somebody also wanted that 1950s steam engine, which I don't see why we can't run. I don't know. Here, we'll get the Lionel going here. As soon as I get here, I hear the Beatles. How about Long Rolling Train by the Doobie Brothers? I haven't heard that one. I like Old Black Water. That's a pretty good one. I love these live streams. They're so chill and relaxing. Glad to hear it. It's, I don't know. I think it's nice. Just unwind from life, mess around with some trains. I sure find it nice doing these live streams. I have some bangers queued up for the road trip tomorrow. Right on. And what Liam is talking about in the chat is we're supposed to drive up to Montreal tomorrow morning and go to Expo Rail. So yeah, that should be interesting, and possibly go to a very famous hobby shop, which a lot of people have recommended. So we'll see how that all goes. Anyway, I'm not sure. I think there was some other engine I was supposed to haul with the freight train. I apologize to whoever requested it. I kind of forgot. But we can run that tram because I know about that. We can run the Indiana. Okay, that was requested first. So we'll run the Indiana engine, and then we'll get the tram going, just because I don't really want to take those cars off the track, only to have to put them directly back on. All right. It was Boston, Maine. Yeah, I said yes to that too. So we'll get those two, and then we'll run the tram, and then we'll get the we'll get the talent going. Tycho. Can you run the New York Central Streamline train and passenger cars later? Well, I still haven't fixed that engine. I don't even know what's wrong with it. I have a feeling that engine is going to be a lot of work, and I'll tell you why. If the motor's loose, it's probably because the chassis is given away. Because I know a lot of those old River Aussies tend to suffer from zinc rot or zinc pest, so if it's got that, then I'm going to have to get pretty creative to try to get that running again. Can you buy some Sydney train? Maybe. I pre-ordered my Bnsf engine in the Norfolk Southern scheme. Pink Salmon, I hope you have a good night. Yes, you too. Where do you live? There's actually 3 Boston and Maine cars and a caboose. Where are you at? Where I live, sorry. There's actually 3. I'm in, I'm just outside the nation's capital of Canada, Ottawa. Long Train is Running is a great song, SMT. They play it a lot at my local radio station. Please get the mysterious 1950s Varney with a 7-pole motor. Sure, dang smooth runner, yeah. These old Stewart Hobbies engines are pretty good. I don't even know if Stewart is still around, but they were very good at building, really nice engines. And they've always been great runners. It's kind of hard to hear because the AC is running here, but this thing is ridiculously quiet. Why is the Varney mysterious? Well, it's not really mysterious anymore, but when I got it, it was sort of a surprise, because when I cracked that thing open, it had a 7-pole motor in it, which is not something I was expecting to see. So it actually turned out to be hiding a Varney Lindsay supermotor, which are actually worth a lot of money. I saw one on eBay, and it was 2 days away from the auction being over, and people were already willing to pay $60 for one. So yeah, that was a pretty nice surprise. Hey SMT, would you ever get an HO scale GMD1 locomotive? I don't know what a GMD1 is, to be honest with you, so I couldn't say. But there's not really anything that's off limits for adding on to the layout as far as I'm concerned. Hey SMT, remember Steal Ya Girl? Was that about that whole thing where CN came in and... I can't remember which order this happened in, but either CN was setting up a deal with Kansas City Southern, or Canadian Pacific was setting up a deal with Kansas City Southern, and then right before it was all finished off, the other railroad came through and kind of swiped the railroad from under them. So it was the amount of memes about that. I mean, it was just priceless. And saying, oh, again, I can't remember which railroad it was, but it was either like, oh, CN playing the ultimate Steal Yo Girl move, or Canadian Pacific playing the ultimate Steal Yo Girl move. Anyway, we're gonna get this thing back around here. Yoink, to put it lightly. Show us the Nerf cat. I mean, I can go look for him, but I'm pretty sure he went outside, so if he is out there, there's not much I can do. I think CN pulled it from underneath them. Canadian National. Greasy moves. Congrats on 36,000 subscribers. Thank you. Did you build your whole layout or no? Well, I don't know what if you mean did I build it all in one go? Certainly not. It was built in many different phases. If you're asking if I like built it all by myself, not really. Like, you know, when I started this, I was a kid, so my dad had a lot of help with it, and this table was actually built by a local carpenter who through some sort of a there was some sort of like a local charity auction, and he offered up his services, and my parents bid on it, and then I got this table as a birthday gift for 2007, so it was my 6th birthday I got this table. Hey SMT, but I don't want to bug you, but can you put on the Veterans Unit NS? I don't know if I have that. If you had any beginner tips, what would it be? I shared a whole bunch of them earlier. My main thing, though, which I suggest to most people, is like figure out what it is exactly you want to build. So get a lot of inspiration from different things and make a list, and then you deduct off that list based off how big your budget is and how much space you have, and build it exactly, you know, build what you want, you know. If people are saying, oh, this is what you got to do, you got to pick an era and all this stuff, you know, it's your layout, make it the way you want it. You're the one who's using it, so people give you advice, doesn't mean you should necessarily not listen to them, but there's just a lot of people in the hobby, and I think they feel a lot of pressure to build their layout a certain way just to appease strangers on the internet. Not sure if it's against the rules to put a link to a Spotify playlist. Yeah, I don't know. Is that what Liam's doing? This engine's ridiculously slow, I gotta say. Harrison, have you heard of the Elizabeth Cotton singing Freight Train, Freight Train? She was from the 60s. Cool song. I haven't heard that one, no. It's not me. It should be good, though. Alright, so we're now going to take this off. We're going to run the Bombardier Talent, and then we're going to connect the whole train together. And to finish off the stream, we are going to run the 1950s Varney. How does that sound, everyone? What? You don't do model railroading the same uniform way I do, down to the letter? That's pretty cringe. Opinion on Unstoppable. It's a fun movie. I know a lot of hardcore train people are not a big fan of it just because, you know, it's really unrealistic. But if you cut it with a Hollywood grain of salt, it can be a fun movie. I like what they did with the train. I think the 777 looks pretty cool. Kind of see they almost blended like a Canadian Pacific locomotive with like a Santa Fe war bonnet. It's almost like they mixed them together for the movie. Silver Streak is the best train movie. That's a pretty good one. I think my personal favorite in terms of train movies is Runaway Train from '85. Tough Guys isn't really entirely a train movie because, you know, the movie has a lot of different parts to it, but Tough Guys is a pretty fun movie too. It's probably the best comedic train movie. I mean, Silver Streak certainly has its moments. It's a Gene Wilder film. It's not going to be bad, but I don't know. It's sort of the funny thing about Tough Guys too is that, you know, the whole movie is supposed to be, I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but it's supposed to be like, you know, these two guys who have not experienced, you know, like the modern world, which is 1986. But of course, now when you watch the movie, you're viewing it from the current present, so it's like you're watching people witness a different time, which is supposed to be modern, from an even more modern time. I don't know. For some reason, I find that interesting. Anyway, I'm just going to get the talent here. Whoops, where is my track? Do you think you'll run the Wakefield train at HO track? Absolutely. I just need to get the thing DCC'd and hopefully not get kicked out by the club. Maybe get my membership so I can actually operate the thing legally there. I'd love to run it at a train show. Just have to keep a close eye on that so nobody gets any bright ideas. I wonder if it's still 3. Huh, apparently so. And the lights are already on. That's nice. We need the tram. Full speed. I'm gonna slow it down and come around this corner right here. This thing is unbelievably slick. Bombardier really did a wonderful job with this thing back in the day. The funny thing is this, you know, 90s era light rail train I find actually looks a lot more modern than actual modern like Alstom products. You know, they're all about just, you know, making it very streamlined, and I find the modern LRTs are usually a lot more boxy and stuff. They don't look bad, but they're certainly not as slick. And the interiors too, I find, are a lot more stark. Like the interiors of the Bombardier Talents are actually kind of warm. I've actually got you know, pretty nice ceilings and stuff. I don't know, everything just seems very comfy. And if you look at like the new Alstom units, they're all very cold, just with how they've been lit and everything. They look more modern, but I don't like them as much. That thing is smooth. Yeah, it's not bad. These Brawa models, I find, have a lot of problems, because I had problems with mine, and then Mark of M&M Rails also bought one, and he had some problems with it. Guy in my train club has one. I don't think he's had too many issues with it, but he's been the owner of it its entire time. What size is your layout? I don't know exactly. We'll let this maybe go around one more time, and then we'll finish off by running the 1950 steamer. We need the tram. Haven't been back in a while. How's the Hershey factory coming? I've been working on it. I'm quite a bit past the due date for that, but one piece at a time. One of the things too I haven't mentioned about, you know, taking my time with the Hershey factory is that, you know, if I really wanted, I'm sure I could cut a ton of corners and get the factory done sooner rather than later. But I want to get it done. Yeah, I want it to look good. You know, I don't want to build something really, really rough, especially when it's, you know, supposed to be like a labor of love. So may as well take my time and get it done properly instead of just throwing it all together. It's 80% done. Yeah, exactly. It's getting there. Anyway, we're gonna stop this. We're gonna get the 1950s era Varney on, and then I think we're gonna call it a night, because we are working our way towards 11 o'clock right now. I'm gonna try to run this thing, but the wheels look like they've already reoxidized, unfortunately, so that's one problem. The other thing is it doesn't have a coupler, so I can't haul anything with it, but try to just run it around the layout for fun. If any of you have like one more request, the first request that I see, provided that it works, I guess I'll run it. Anyway, I'm giving this thing some power now. Seems to be shorted for some reason. Yeah, it doesn't want to run. That was weird. Oh. Why is it arcing? Oh. Oh, that's weird. It's kind of acting up a little bit. That thing is a dinosaur. Yeah, it is. I kind of like how rugged it looks, though. She lives. It dies. Oh, there we go. I think the wheels just need to be clean. Hey, SMT, have you ever heard about the North Alberta Railways? This thing does not seem very happy. Whatever happened to that old Yellowstone you have? Just never got around to working on it. Still have it. Still eventually want to build it all together, but I need to buy parts for it. See if the connection rods are rusted a little bit. Yeah, I kind of just think the wheels are probably just dirty, but that's also not impossible. It might need fresh oil too. These older engines with all metal parts, the oils just, they leak out easier, and they kind of get burned up just because there's more friction. Are you planning to sell any of your trains by chance? Yeah. I've actually got a box in there that I intend to sell off to my local hobby shop. We're on an F7, alright. Is it live? Yes. Not sure where this thing goes. Okay, I'm just gonna put this up here for now. I have a Loco like that, but when I tested it, it started smoking and burned out in less than a minute. That's unfortunate. It could just be the commutator, though. Right, you have to watch that, especially if an old engine like that's been sitting a long time. Usually the lubricants will have dried up, and if you try to force it to run, the motor's just under so much strain, the heat builds up in it, and something burns. Once you have a short on a coil, too, that's always a problem. Okay, no spamming tram. I'm supposed to run an F unit. Because we already ran that one. I wonder which one. Santa Fe F unit. Santa Fe F unit. I'll throw this thing on. I don't think I'm going to force this thing to try to haul the train, though, because despite this being kind of a junky engine, I actually really like it. It was fine. It stopped and started smoking. Yeah, probably a dirty commutator. It's usually what happens. The commutators, the little gaps in between. I'll try to show you, actually, what happens on these motors. This is your... This is what's inside every motor. You can see there are these little gaps in between those metal plates, and what often happens is carbon from the two brushes actually gets caught in between those, and it causes a short circuit, so that will actually burn, and it will make these motors super inefficient. And usually, if it goes on long enough, this will actually burn up the plastic which holds it all together. So every time you service your engine, I highly recommend, if the motor's not too hard to access, clean the gaps. It makes a big difference. It doesn't even matter, not even on just model trains, but anything with a DC motor, be careful. But, well, for example, the starting motor on my boat went bad. It wasn't turning anymore, and I couldn't figure out why. And I opened it up, and This is the brush, which I pulled out of the starter, and all those gaps were packed with carbon. So I bought a set of new brushes, and that's all carbon there too, by the way. I bought a set of new brushes and cleaned the gaps, and now the starter works. So anything from a model train motor to a outboard starter, doesn't matter. And for Buddy there who wanted the tram, here you go. Woo! Anyway, I think I'm going to finish off this live stream. I'd like to thank you all so much for joining in this evening. Before I do, let's read off a couple of these comments. In Australia, postage costs are excessive, and our government rips us off excessively. Also, the same amount of postage costs, which is how much the government is making on top. So it's double. Ricky M, I have that Santa Fe F unit. I've had it forever. How long did it take for you to make the layout? Because I'm building one. This has been in the works since 2007, but it doesn't take necessarily that long. It's just because I've revamped it and all sorts of stuff. So you can build a layout faster, but you never really finish it, in my opinion, because you just keep changing stuff. It's funny, the junkier the CNF unit. Try the earlier bogey died. Well, anyway, I think I'll finish off the live stream right here. Thank you all so much for joining in. I've had a lot of fun running all these trains with all of you. I hope you all enjoyed. And with that, I'd like to wish you all a wonderful night. Take care, everyone.